Hello everybody, my name is Atlas and welcome back to another video. At this point you've probably heard something or other about the developments in the conflict between Palestine and Israel. Hamas, alongside other Palestinian militant groups, has launched a historic offensive into Israel. The offensive caught the Israeli Defense Force completely off guard, and Hamas has made substantial gains, despite all the odds being against them. There have also been hundreds of civilian casualties on both sides, as well as hundreds of hostages being taken by Hamas. Now, before we get into the video, I want to make it very clear what my stance is on this issue. I 100% support the liberation of the Palestinian people from the brutal Israeli system of apartheid. The atrocities that have been committed toward the Palestinian people are disgusting and incredibly cruel, and I support Palestinian freedom wholeheartedly. In regards to the offensive itself, the success this offensive has seen is actually unprecedented and very shocking for several different reasons. Now, to put it in very simple terms, the conflict between Israel and Palestine has never been anything remotely close to a fair fight, despite what the media might like to portray it as. Traditionally, when people think of war, they think of fighting between two different states that both have established militaries and infrastructure. There might be one nation that's stronger and one nation that's the underdog, but typically each side at least has a fighting chance. That is not what this conflict is in the slightest. There is a reason that Gaza is called the world's largest open-air prison. First, let's take a look at Israel. They have a GDP of approximately $488.5 billion. The IDF has about 169,500 active personnel and around 465,000 reserve personnel. They have an annual military budget of $24 billion, nuclear weapons, and the support of the entire Western world behind them. Let's look at Palestine. More specifically, the Gaza Strip, since it's the only territory Palestine has left that isn't occupied by Israel. The median age in Gaza is 18, which is 10 years less than the international average. 96% of Gaza's water supply is undrinkable. Due to Israel's blockade, Gaza has virtually zero hope of ever rebuilding this water infrastructure. They are constantly under Israeli bombardment, and Israel has control over virtually everything that enters and exits the country due to a blockade that they have established. Palestine has virtually zero allies besides Iran, and the Palestinian people are quite literally the subject of a ruthless apartheid system with no hope of ending it. So when we take all of that into consideration, as well as the dozens of other factors that I didn't mention there, or the dozens of other statistics that I didn't mention there that are making life miserable for the people of Gaza, you can understand why the amount of success Hamas has had with this offensive is incredible. I mean, Israel controls everything that enters and exits the country. It's hard enough to get basic necessities into Gaza, let alone the equipment and materials needed for a full-on offensive. Now, a lot of the discourse surrounding these events is around some of the atrocities that Hamas has committed during their offensive, such as massacring civilians, rape, etc. Obviously, that stuff's not acceptable. Those are war crimes, and obviously, I and any rational person would condemn those things. That being said, you have to understand why this brutality is happening in the first place. Violence begets violence, right? You cannot commit atrocities for decades against a people with nothing, with no allies and no hope, and force people to live in fear of whether or not they'll be gunned down by an Israeli soldier tomorrow, or if they'll die to the bombings that happen overnight instead. You cannot do all of that to a people. Back them into a corner like that, take away everything for them, take away all their hope, everything, and expect there not to be outrage. You can't expect there not to be fury and a desire for retaliation. And that's not to say all of the stuff killing innocent civilians is justifiable, but the torment being experienced by these Israeli civilians is only a fraction of a torment experienced by the people forced to live under the brutality of the Israeli apartheid regime for decades. And I think this tweet here is a really good summary of the ongoing conflict. There's no perfect retaliation to apartheid, only victims everywhere. One party holds all the power to end the violence, however, and it's certainly not the Palestinians living under a colonial apartheid regime that has chained them in an open-air prison it bombs routinely. There's violence, bloodshed, and atrocities being committed everywhere. But only one side in this conflict has the power to put an end to the cycle of death and despair. And it's certainly not the people with their backs to the wall fighting for their right to live. This situation is a pretty complex conflict with a lot of different things, and I do want to go more in depth into it in the coming days. Thank you all for watching. Hope you found the video insightful or informative. Hope you have a good rest of your day, and I'll talk to you all later.